Hello, everyone, and welcome to RHAP Has a Podcast. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and we are here tonight to recap the Wednesday night episode of Big Brother Canada 10. It's the penultimate Wednesday episode. The penultimate Wednesday episode before the final Wednesday episode, which is the penultimate episode of the whole season. We are here to talk through it all on a what we intend to be a bite-sized podcast, but there are quite a few of us here, so we'll see how it goes. With me tonight is Chappell. How you doing, Chappell?
I'm good, Taran. The end is so close that we can taste it. At least that's what the show told us. It's so close, you can literally taste it. And yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm happy to be included. This is a crazy panel of people. So I'm like, just ease my way in at the very end, kind of weasel my way in like a ghost, some would say. So, I'm good here. I'm good. Thank you.
Yes. We had to get the band back together after the Chappell Melissa Wednesday night recap. Melissa is joining us as well.
Yes, I'm here. And I'm here also to report that it was a tangram last time.
2 weeks?
Yeah, well, I just want to explain now that I'm on our Wednesday episode.
So if you were here 2 weeks ago, Melissa was like, no, not a puzzle. There was something with paper that you cut the pieces of paper and then you put the pieces of paper back together. And we were like, so a puzzle? And she was like, no. And so she goes and she tweets out, look, it's a tangram. I'm like, oh, interesting. I Googled tangram. And what do you know? The very first line of description, a puzzle.
There is a large difference. I mean, you can say that a Rubik's Cube is a puzzle because you have to solve it, but it's not a jigsaw puzzle, which is the puzzle you two were describing.
Excuse me, I don't think I've said the word jigsaw in that entire podcast.
That's exactly where the confusion stemmed from. This all came from you guys.
Roll the tapes.
This all came from you. You should have been more clear that it was a
We should have been more clear that we meant jigsaw when we didn't mean jigsaw.
Well, if you didn't mean jigsaw, then you were just wrong.
We should have here's how should so we didn't mean jigsaw. So when we said not a jigsaw, but when we just said puzzle, we should have specified not a jigsaw puzzle.
Look, the accepted language is when you refer to a puzzle is a jigsaw puzzle. It's not referring to a bunch of other stuff like one of those little mystery puzzles where you have to get the little key off of the ring or whatever. It's referring to a jigsaw puzzle. Okay.
So what would you call the thing that the veto that Helena won, the first veto where they were building a thing?
That is a puzzle. Taran, I don't see where this is. I don't understand where this is coming from, Taran.
I see what Melissa's saying. I do.
Yeah, but I don't see where this is going.
But also, I typed in tangram into Google and it said, "Do you mean a tangram puzzle?" And I was like, "No, not that." And I was like, "Are you sure?"
Yeah, not that.
And I was like, "Are you?" It was like, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "No." They're like, "But that's all we have here. It's tangram puzzles. It's not really another tangram." So I get it. I see both sides. We can talk about it later on.
Look, I'm just trying to spread the gospel of the tangram so everyone understands that what a tangram is and how annoying they are.
All right. Well, we've been making great time so far, and we've been leaving our other guest here in the lurch. Pooya has joined us here tonight as well. How you doing, Pooya?
I'm great. I'm not here to add to the puzzle debacle, quite frankly, because I know y'all want to move it along. I'm here to moderate, but let's move on.
Yes.
The moderator says, cut it. Cut that.
Pooya will be joining me later tonight with the Survivor Stock Watch as well, so make sure you tune in for that, of course. But we are here to talk about tonight's episode of Big Brother Canada 10. I gotta say, I expected big things from this episode. I felt like there were some big things to see. And I think that the episode didn't really fulfill those expectations. I think that my expectations were a little high. I think it was a fine episode. I think that it had good content, but I was hoping for something better than I think we ultimately got. But that's sort of, I think, the perspective of somebody who, fully knew everything that was going to happen coming in. Chappell, what were your thoughts on the episode?
Yeah, see, I'm behind on the feeds. So I did not know what the prevailing thought processes of all the players is right now as it stands before the episode airs, obviously. And so I just knew that, we had our new HOH and that Josh was in hot water. And so I was like, okay, I wonder how this is going to go. But watching the episode, it did raise a few questions. It looked like it was pretty cut and dry one way. It looked like it shifted about halfway through. Josh starts to, work his way back into Betty's good graces and vice versa. And then by the end, he's on the block, but it doesn't look like he's the target. So I thought it told a pretty concise story. I just don't know what I missed by not keeping up with the feeds.
Yeah, I will say I didn't expect them to show what we saw pretty quickly, which was the plan to reveal the secret veto stuff. Now, I don't think we got it in the level of detail or with the sort of like, flair that it perhaps should have been shown in, considering how effective it was. But we did get it a little bit, and ultimately that leads to the Helena and Jace conversation where Jace fails to disclose that information, I guess would be the proper way of putting what she failed. She failed to disclose the fact that she had the secret veto, and then kind of got caught with her pants down a little bit. Like, yeah, I did not tell you that. I didn't think you would know that, actually. Whoops.
Yeah, I think generally, like, they got all the information across, like, or at least like by the end of the episode, you kind of understood what had happened, but there was really no, I guess, drama to it. There was really no excitement to it necessarily. Like, I don't know. I felt like Monday's episode for me was like, whoa, oh man, like every like scene was something else happening, and it was just like the way it was portrayed was just really exciting. This one was kind of just like, yeah, and here's the information. And I think part of that has to do with the fact that the explanation of like the plan to like get her to reveal or I guess Kevin and Helena's plan, like part of it was just described by them in the diary room and not necessarily like you see it happening in real time. I just felt like it didn't work as well for me. And then, of course, the jacey-lynne thing. I mean, like, it has been talked about on this podcast, like, a lot where, it's like, oh, well, she handled that so wrong when basically she kept trying to press her for that information. Like, because Betty at the time knew that she had won the secret veto and was pressing her on it and like hoping that she would reveal it, and she wasn't revealing it. And then finally she just admits like, look, I know about this. And then she tries to kind of be like, oh, who told you that? And doesn't explicitly say like, yes, I did, until like a little later. And I think it kind of was condensed down. So it just kind of seemed like a nothing bit where it was just like, oh yeah, I actually know that you won the secret veto. And then she's just like, yeah, I did. And like, that's the end of it, where there was no drama to it. There was no like, oh no, she's not saying it, but she knows that she won it. Like, what is going to happen? It was just like, yeah, I know about it. Oh, okay. So if I didn't know any better, I would think like everyone handled that fine. And it went really well for everybody involved because she confronted her about it and she didn't deny it. She just said, yep, that's true. Oh, okay, great. Everything went well. But that's not really how it went in real life. So I feel like that wasn't portrayed as accurately as it could have been, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we see Betty saying like, what are you trying to pull one over on me here, right? Like we see Betty react negatively to Jace's sort of like, I didn't know that you would know that, but so I do think we got that, but I agree in general it was very sort of like, and again I expected that we wouldn't see it at all, so I'm glad we at least saw a little bit of it. It's now probably the sort of thing where somebody watching the episodes back, we could at least be like, oh yeah, that whole thing was much bigger than you saw, versus like, oh no, Betty wasn't convinced by Kevin at Wendy's, it was a whole thing. Okay, so it starts here. Like it's at least we have the bare bones of what actually happened here. And We also see the Betty and Josh conversation where Betty is going to is sort of express to Josh just how hurt she is and all of that. Pooya.
Yeah, I mean, listen, when last time we spoke, Taran, it was shambles city for the two of them. They were not happy with each other, mostly Betty not happy with Josh. I'm happy they put this on the show. I'm happy we saw them rekindle things. Betty's like, I was thinking when I get married, you'd be up there. Josh was like, you're my best friend. You're my friend. Hug it out. I love this. I'm a cheesy guy, so I do love this. I'm glad they put this on here. It's nice to see.
Yeah. And so we get to the nomination ceremony. Betty makes the decision to nominate Josh and Jace, leaving Helena and Kevin off the block. And Jace is just like, what the hell? How are they still off the block? How do they keep getting away with it?
Honestly, like, I kind of agree with Jace on this one. I feel like her argument to Betty by saying, they're snakes. They've been lying this whole time. They've lied once. They're going to lie again. Like, that's just the way that they do this thing. I feel like I would believe her. And if I'm Betty, I would think that would resonate with me. Like, oh yeah, like these guys somehow keep avoiding all these situations. I just feel like Jace did a really good job in that conversation. And I'm surprised that Betty didn't, take the bait essentially and keep Jace safe in this situation. It really, really, really should have been Kevin and Helena on the block for Betty's game. I just think that would have been much better for her.
I'm inclined to agree with you, Melissa, because at first I was thinking the same thing. Like, what is happening? Why this should make sense? Kevin and Helena are definitely a twosome. Mm-hmm. You don't have a pair because Josh just put you up, so you cannot say that that y'all are a duo. So why would you take out somebody who clearly does not have anywhere else to go? But then you start to think of who jacey-lynne is in the game, and she's somebody who's won competitions, who has proven to win top competitions when it's clutch. She's taken herself off the block several times. So it's like, do you take your risk at having jacey-lynne there to possibly win the next 3 competitions or 2 or 3 competitions? And then what do you say when you're sitting next to jacey-lynne? Sure, I pulled all these strings, but you can't touch her because she's never, immune. Well, she's never not immune. So I think it's just she's kind of got herself in a between a rock and a hard place here, where it's like it's almost too late to side with jacey-lynne because you keep her and then she's going to beat you. But I'm with you on that one. The whole time she was talking, I was like, well, she's making sense. Mm-hmm. You're basically going to be up a creek if you don't have her. But what are your alternatives?
And to be fair,
in the name. It's in the Betty. Yeah. You can't be Betty without Petty, okay? And she had enough ammunition to load some Petty bullets this week. That's simply as. Now, has there been regret? Of course, naturally. But in the moment, she was feeling it all. She was feeling the right moves,
And this could have been a really good situation for Betty to build a bond with jacey-lynne and use that to her advantage. Because at this point, jacey-lynne has lost all of her allies. She thought she had allies in Kevin and Helena, but they literally just betrayed her. So she is angry with them. Clearly, in the last episode, you see her yelling at Helena and them getting into it together. So, you can tell that jacey-lynne is, not pleased with Kevin and Helena. And she doesn't really have a relationship with Josh. And Betty is finally in power. This is the perfect opportunity to build something with jacey-lynne and be like, look, you clearly don't have anyone left in the house. I was just betrayed as well by Josh. We need to band together. I will keep you safe this week, as if you promise to keep me safe if you win next week, or whatever she wants to do. Let's work together, essentially. And then put Kevin and Helena on the block. I mean, Josh, yeah, sure, he betrayed her, but he's her only ally left, essentially. And I totally get why she put him on the block, because it's like a tit for tat situation. But I really think that she could have done something to build a bridge with jacey-lynne moving forward, especially like Chappell said, jacey-lynne is winning things. And if she's concerned about her winning things, well, she could use that for her own advantage to, make a deal with her. I think that would have been the best move in this scenario.
Yeah, it's a spot here where Betty says to us, when I get mad, I don't talk to the person until I feel ready to talk to them. We heard Josh say, like, I'm gonna give her a couple of days. I believe that was in the last episode. I'm just gonna give her some time to blow this over. The problem is that in Big Brother, there's only roughly like a 24-hour period between winning HOH and making your nomination. So that day that they took off of like really getting down and talking. Now they did have the one conversation, but not enough to like fully reconcile. That day led to nominating Josh. The following morning was like, okay, now we can reconcile. Now we have this nice conversation. I want you standing next to me at my wedding. We're going to hug it out. It's going to be great. And we can finally address.
I think Kevin is a much bigger problem than I thought.
The Kevin problem. Here's the problem with the Kevin problem. Kevin's not on the block right now. So Betty has been thinking about it, and Kevin is a much bigger problem than she thought. She thinks that Kevin's been playing them. She's going to give this information to Josh. Now, Josh's response is a little strange, considering he knows almost all of the information that Betty is telling him, apart from the information that Kevin has been saying that he might want Josh out. If I were Josh, I would assume like that's just Kevin not like hiding our relationship, pretending like he wants me out. But Josh quickly is going to go to.
I feel very played by Kevin.
He feels very played by Kevin. Those are the only two sound bites I have, by the way. Just don't get your hopes up. So I feel like there's just something missing here. Even watching the feeds, I feel like there's something missing here, like the through line for Josh as to why he is so anti-Kevin now. Obviously, part of it is that he feels Kevin has turned on him. But beyond just Kevin turning on him, he also feels like Kevin's tactics are now disgusting. And he can't be friends with Kevin outside of the house anymore because of how gross of a person he is. And it's like, but Josh has been with Kevin every step of the way all season long. He's not exactly like being forthcoming to Betty about that fact either. So I figured that there was at least part of Josh that was just playing this up to Betty, even if he was pissed at Kevin for maybe wanting to cut him at this point. But it seems as though this is fully how Josh feels based on what we're hearing in the diary room. And it like, I can see maybe why we get there, but I still just feel a little bit lost as to exactly what Josh's thought process is.
I feel like, what are the tactics that are disgusting? Like, I feel like I don't know of any tactics that Kevin has used that are like disgusting or that I would be so appalled by. I really think
emotionally
Kevin is
manipulating.
Playing, but I think Kevin is playing just like, I don't know, a really interesting game and just a really, I don't know. I don't necessarily feel like he's done anything that's like super outrageous. Maybe I'm just like, I'm comparing it to like past house guests who like emotional manipulation is like outright bullying and not like part of the game. Like this is just like saying certain things that it's like a Dan style where it's like, oh, he's emotionally manipulating like Danielle by making her cry, but not like actually like bullying her, harassing her, like isolating her. Like I feel like that's where I like draw the line in terms of like bad tactics versus like good gameplay. I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely strange here. I do personally think that Kevin has played one of the cleaner sort of like mastermind games we've seen in a long time. But all that really matters is the perception in the house, and for Betty and Josh at least, they do not like his tactics. And Josh is at this point seemingly fully flipped against Kevin. They talk about the possibility of getting Kevin up on the block. Now, Josh talks about potentially taking Kevin out, but at this point in time, Betty is still very much on the page of taking Jace out if Jace is still up on the block. That the idea of getting Kevin out is not really a possibility unless Jace is the one that wins the veto, not Josh. But it certainly plays for
from this. Like, why are they not like? I feel like if Kevin is considered an emotional manipulator, like Helena would be what? Like, wouldn't she be
his little sidekick is what Josh called her.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You know what that's you know what that's like. You know exactly what that is. She's never gonna get the credit that he gets because he looks like a nerd and because he's a man, and like it's Helena and they don't respect her game. And she said it. She says it to Kevin Martin in this episode. Like, I think people aren't going to realize the things that I've done in this game, and they think I'm just floating by. And so but for me, Josh's thing is that he screwed up. He put up his friend, and rather than saying, I'm a bad guy, I put up my friend. Look, Betty and him are talking about being at each other's wedding. You're my best friend inside, outside the house, upside the house, under the house, around the house. You're my best friend in the whole world. So as your best friend in the whole world, you wouldn't allow me to win this game. You would risk that for Kevin and Helena, right? That's what you're saying. Your best friend in the whole world is going to sit on the block instead of these two randos. And you're like, yeah, well, it's because Kevin is so evil. Oh my gosh, his tactics. He turned us against each other. We are a friendship rooted in friendship of all the friendliest friendship of all time. And you mean to tell me that we let him get in between us? He's so dirty. That totally. Kevin. It's like, Josh, own it. You did it. You did it. You screwed up. You did it, but you screwed up, and it's okay. But I think there's a line, right, where you can start to be a character assassin a little bit on Kevin because it can further your game. You do need to turn Betty against Kevin and Helena. You do need to be back in her good graces, but there's kind of like a limit to where I think the early seasons of Big Brother US, like when you start calling people the devil, they don't love it, and so it's kind of like you have to teeter that line of, yes, I need you back with me and I need you against Kevin, but also Kevin hasn't really done anything that bad, so you got to make some up. And so I think that's just what he's doing right now. It's painful to watch because, Josh, this is 100% your fault, but you got to do something.
I think you're totally right. I think there is an element of guilt involved in this whole thing where it's like he feels guilty that he did this. So instead it's like, well, I can't believe Kevin convinced me to do this. Like, it's so evil. It's like, okay, well, you were the one who did it, and like, sorry, but yeah. My question is it working? Is it effective? That's all I want to know.
In terms of Josh and Betty being on the same page now? Yes. They very much are. And that's sort of where things stand, right? Heading into this veto, big stakes. If Jace wins it, Kevin could be in some trouble. Theoretically, if Josh wins it, Kevin could end up on the block again. Though, in both spots, Josh and Jace should leave over him, but certainly the possibility exists that he could end up leaving. So we get into this veto competition. Not my favorite to watch, personally. I feel like it was actually like I liked watching it the first time. The subsequent 5 times, I was like, okay. I'm good.
I did love Betty in it, where she just ended up in some other room. Like, I do feel like they probably should have like clarified, like, okay, this is where the competition is.
Let him wander.
I guess so, but yeah, that was like sad to watch, and I just kept thinking about like the lights that were lined up below. I thought she was for sure just going to kick those, and those are probably worth a lot of money. So it was very funny watching her just like bang around on like the side of the set while they like panned out, and it was like you saw the actual competition going on like way on the other side, and she's like over here walking into walls. That was pretty funny.
All I could think of was watching Jace. Her life is on the line in this game. She might go home at the final 5 if she doesn't win this veto. In fact, there's a very good chance that she will. And she's like on her hands and knees, like slowly crawling through. I'm like, I just watched an episode of Survivor where these fools are running at like a sprint through like wooden obstacles with blindfolds on in order to get like bad pizza. Like this is for your life in the game at final 5, and you're slowly moving through this. I mean, I get it. It's like you don't want to injure yourself, but man, have a little hustle. We saw Josh move a lot faster. Helena crushes it. I think Jace, apart from the fact that she also is too short to see the puzzle piece, which is something to talk about. I think that Jay still would have lost this competition based on the speed alone.
I think that's fair. I think that's very fair. I mean, I think it kind of speaks to Jace's game, right? Doesn't start quick out the gate, takes her time, then realizes, oh no, you know what? I gotta speed it up now. And by then it's too little too late. I do think so. I liked this concept for this competition. I really liked the making them watch the videos. The blindfolding was very interesting. Did not realize we were going back to the bird box of it all. But I did like the different locations, and I hated watching it. I think anytime you give us a veto where it's a time trial and like we see it 6 times, it's played out after the first time. But all the other parts of it was 2 thumbs up for me.
Yeah. My favorite part is that, like, who is the weirdo who thought, let me hide these puzzle pieces on the top of a building that no one can see? That is so cruel. Like, people are running underneath, like, I can't find this. Have you tried scaling the skyscraper?
Yeah.
Especially because there are players who are able to just immediately see it. Like, it's not even an issue for them. It's very much above Jace's eye line. Like, definitely height played an advantage there. But ultimately, we see Kevin and Betty struggle quite a bit. And Helena wins the competition with 10 minutes, roughly. As you can tell by the fact that I have no more sound clips, what are you doing, Helena? What is this veto celebration where you're just repeating the same lines from before? You can't regular schmegular me twice.
Me, Helena, regular schmegular, basic mid.
That was way better than her regular schmegular. This time she was well rehearsed. She was like, all right, me, regular schmegular. I'm like, what? No, you don't get to repeat them.
She's building a narrative. She wants us to know that you two could get off the couch and go sit on a different couch. You know, like, you could be regular schmegular Helena and still pull yourself up from, you know, like the bottom of this alliance and tear it apart and win a couple competitions. She's like, she's just explaining to you what we should see her as, this underdog that she kind of is an underdog, honestly, but she's got to believe in herself more, because after some point, like, we're all going to stop believing it to you. How many times are you going to call yourself mid? Really?
Yeah, I feel like the first time it makes sense and it's cute because it's like, oh, she finally won something. She's so excited. She's so thrilled. She's shocked. Now it's like, okay, yeah, you've already won a veto. Like, you're good. Like, just, you know, celebrate, you know?
Right.
Yeah. Are you schmegular? If
No.
so,
Regular schmegular.
we have a player for you.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Good advertising.
Voice of the schmegular people. Schmegular.
No.
People.
Schmegular.
Voice of the schmegular people.
Yeah. So Helena has the veto. Of course, she's not going to use it. We of course had to include the obligatory. Even Jace in this segment is like, I mean, you could use it. Like, I've got to say this. Like, we didn't need this. This was unnecessary. Everybody knows Helena's not going to use the veto. She doesn't use the veto. It's all fine.
Yep. It's fine. Whatever. Stays the same, as we suspected.
Yes.
I liked Kevin's shirtless celebration.
At least Jace did something. You know, like, she didn't have to, but at least she did it. We don't like to see the person who just gives up. At least she said the words, like, you know, you could use it on me. She's like, no, okay, you're right. So, all right, that's cool.
Yeah.
I don't even know, you know, Jace is just in a tight spot where she's not getting past this round. It doesn't seem like it based on the veto. Now, if anything else crazy happens, that's fine, but there was no way she was coming off the block. Not at this point. Not with Helena being the veto holder.
Yeah. Anything else from the episode? Because there are some spoilers that I think we have to get into here, even though it's a Wednesday night. So anything else from the episode?
Nothing from me.
All right.
I mean, Taran, do you want me to snitch on you to Kevin Martin? You're just going to not talk about your guy?
How dare you?
Of course. Kevin Martin. Well, I can tell you that Kevin Martin should be joining me tomorrow night to talk through some Big Brother. So we will hopefully get some Kevin Martin on Kevin Martin
Oh
action
my goodness.
tomorrow night.
Oh.
But yes, of course, very cool to see Kevin here. I think that I love the whiteboard, whipping out the whiteboard. Feel like probably could have made better use of space on the whiteboard. Big old whiteboard, 3 words on it. I feel like, you could have probably fit a little bit more. I mean, you had a whole binder going into BBCAN 5. You couldn't have fit like some more words on that.
I'd be interested to know how much detail he was able to get into, or if he had to like pre-tell like the producers, like, okay, here's what I'm going to tell them and kind of get it cleared. Because I feel like if he knows what's going on in the season and he gives too much information, like, like I'm just wondering if they I would be interested for you to ask him tomorrow, like, what was he allowed to say, or did he have to pre-prepare for whoever won? Like, okay, I'm just going to tell him like basic stuff about like, whatever. Cause he didn't really go into detail, which makes sense. But like, it would have been interesting if he could have, but I'm assuming it's because of, production.
In my experience, my assumption would be that they went through with him ahead of time what he was planning to say. They probably coached him on like, okay, this is, in the back and forth, this is what you are allowed to say. This is not what you're allowed to say. And in general, I think probably stuck to as little, personal opinion about specific things as possible. And there were probably like, people on the call too that were like monitoring the situation.
Yeah, because I feel like I like the idea of having like Kevin Martin or a winner or somebody like come in and give advice to someone as like part of a prize. I love that idea, but at the same time it's like the advice has to be so not personalized that it kind of like it kind of just is a generic like advice. So it's not as impactful for me, where it's like you hear that like, oh, Kevin Martin's going to be like giving advice to this person, like that's amazing, I want to hear what they have to say. And then it's kind of just like generic advice, because obviously it has to be. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think you really have to just trust the person. I mean, obviously, far removed from the days of Dan Giesling entering the house. But like, you trust Dan to know what he's allowed to say, right? Like, I think the same is true of Kevin. I think that, I think there's probably a reason why they chose Kevin for this, which is that like, they know that Kevin is not going to let his personal biases impact what's happening here, and he's not going to accidentally slip and give something away, right? So, I think that's probably where it comes from.
It reminds me of when in Big Brother Canada 6, when they were able to like go over their final pitches or whatever. I thought that was really great, because and I do hope they do that kind of thing more often, because I do feel like it was interesting to hear what people's pitches were going to be, and then to get that feedback from the winners and then give a different pitch in the end was very interesting to see. And I think it's good, because it's good to have someone to kind of like bounce your final pitch off of, because you basically are just reciting it to yourself usually, and you're like, that sounds good, yeah, that sounds good, but it's like, no, don't say that, that sounds really bad. So it's good to have some outside perspective being like, no, you need to have like more confidence in yourself, or you need to play up your wins or whatever. So I like that sort of thing.
All right.
This segment made it very clear that Kevin Martin is a poker player, because these hints that he gave her were clearly out of like a Poker for Dummies beginner's book. Like, okay, stay calm, prepare, and visualize your success. Kevin, are you about to sell a manual or something like that online? I'd be shocked if he's not about to drop a link right now to Kevin Martin's like, strategies for success. You could apply them to literally anything, because none of it had to do anything with this show specifically. This is stuff that you could do this for, like, how you gonna go get the gas, like go get gas from the gas station. Okay, stay calm.
Yeah,
that is run out of gas. Also, make sure you have enough gas to make it, and then make sure you see yourself actually getting to the gas station to put gas in your car. He just did the bare minimum. But I do have questions here. Helena says to Kevin, like, well, first of all, is it cold in the house? Why is she wearing a leather jacket? I just need to know. But she says to Kevin, I have to make a decision that is between my personal game and a game decision. What is she talking about? Because as far as I'm concerned, I don't see these other options that she's talking about. Maybe they showed them all. I'm assuming she's been doing it on the feeds, maybe, but she presented it like Kevin was going to help her make a hard decision this week on whether or not to use the veto. And I didn't see a hard decision at all. So did I miss something? Pooya,
Was she past that and thinking about who to send home?
Yes,
Was she like, I'm already not using it?
Yes, right. The decision she's talking about, because they've already started in on this decision right after she wins the veto, is the personal decision, should I keep Josh, or the strategic decision, should I keep Jace, between the two of them on the block? That's what she's talking about.
What is personal about the Josh thing? Just because they're kind of aligned a little bit? She's
a lot closer to Josh. She likes Josh a lot more. Yeah. She would rather lose to Josh than Jace. She doesn't like Jace very much.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That is a really hard decision, because I do feel like you obviously want to win, but if you can't win in the end, you'll want to have somebody win that you are like happy to have win and are proud of as like you're the winner of your season. And it's like, do you cut that person that you would be proud of winning in the hopes that you will win yourself? Like, I just feel like I totally get why she's having a tough time with this decision. But strategically, I feel like it makes a lot of sense to cut Josh. It's just like, I totally get the emotionality of it.
Yeah. Well, there's plenty to talk about there as we head into the spoilers. So we're going to go right in.
The Office of Civil Defense has issued the following message. This is
a spoiler.
Warning.
A spoiler.
Warning means that an actual
spoiler
against this country has been detected and that protective action should be taken.
Pooya wasn't dancing. I was trying to push him into dancing.
I was bopping my head. A
teeny bop.
Man, we've got some non-dancers lately.
Wow.
Well, here's what I've got for you. If you've been following the updates every morning, and then subsequently the podcasts later in the night, then you've heard me go, they're evicting Josh. Nope, they're evicting Jace. Nope, they're evicting Josh. Nope, they're evicting Jace. Nope, they're evicting Josh this morning. And I can tell you that while these episodes were airing, it has changed yet again. And they have decided to switch and evict Jace.
Oh my God,
that
so
is
confused.
The latest.
I literally had no idea that was coming.
Yeah.
They're doing too much. This is a lot. I mean, here's the thing. I think out of the two of them, I personally have one that I would like to stay in there. But even I'm exhausted and I have no stake in the game. So I don't know. I feel like they should just commit to something at this point. I really do. Because there's not like new information's coming to the table. You're just playing with the same info you have and keep coming with a new conclusion. That doesn't seem like it's right. There's a clear answer for you both. Go with what's good for you. Move it along.
What's their logic now to change it back? I
honestly don't know. I haven't been able to watch since it's all happened while the episodes in this podcast have been happening.
I saw some tweets about they are both trying to get Josh to throw the HOH. The new appeal is Josh might throw the HOH to one of them is kind of what I was seeing. And again, take this with a grain of salt because
HOH means nothing. The veto is what matters. Like, get him to throw the veto. That's what you want. And even then, it's like Betty's not evicting Josh. Like, if Betty wins the veto, I've maintained that I think it's a close call. I do think there's a better chance of getting Josh to throw the veto than, certainly Jace. Jace wouldn't throw it. But I also think that Jace is more likely to evict Betty and Betty's more likely to evict Jace than Josh and Betty to each other, obviously. So I do think there's pros and cons. I've gone back and forth about who I think is best. I've maintained that I do think that evicting Josh is better for the both of them combined. I think it has been better for Helena for most of this time. And given how flipped Josh is on Kevin, I also think it's I do see that for Kevin. And I've said again, as Jace pointed out, Josh is longer than Jace. He has an advantage in in competitions, even random ones where you're blindfolded, just because he can see things that are higher up. So I feel like they were right on their call to keep Jace this morning. And the thing about that is, like, even if they flip back to Josh, that's fine too. In the sense that, like, I think it's also fine to keep Josh. I think there are ways to play with Josh as well. I think it's a close call either way. The thing that I feel like they're really starting to mess up now is that it is way too close to the wire at this point. The eviction is tomorrow night, but the feeds go down. The eviction happens early. It's recorded. They're not going to have much time at all on Thursday. There's rehearsals. There's everything else. There's not a lot of time to talk game on Thursday, which means they're making their decision at the buzzer pretty much. And what that means is that they have done next to no work on making sure that this decision, like, beyond making the decision, okay, you've made the decision, now do the work to make sure it's the right one for you by putting in the work with Josh, putting in the work with Betty, making sure that they're in the right place in your heads, putting in the work with Jace for jury management, because Jace has now gotten her hopes up, and is feeling like, okay, we're in this, and is about to be told, actually, never mind. And let me tell you, Jace is going to come out of this house saying, wow, Josh is incredible. Josh just did that. He managed to convince them to do something that wasn't in their interest. Josh, on his way out the door, yes, he was mad at Kevin, and he would have been talking all kinds of trash about Kevin. But people like Moose and Summer and Herman, who Josh betrayed, would have been like, so you're mad at Kevin for betraying you? And they would have heard all the things that Kevin was doing, and I think they would have given Kevin the credit for it. Now, Jace is going to come out to the jury house, and she's going to be like, Kevin and Helena are just Josh puppets.
Yeah, they can't make up their mind. They just go back and forth. Yeah, they're just convinced
look
by whoever. Yeah, it's not good.
It's very bad. The way that Kevin was talking about evicting Jace just last night when he told her he was evicting her, and then she managed to flip him. If it had ended there and he had made the call to hold on that conversation, she was leaving thinking this was Kevin's decision, and I respect it because he respected me. Yes. Now she's going to think, how did Josh get to them? And it's such a disaster. I can't believe they're making this mistake. So
bad. I bet it'll flip back. It's got to. I mean, it has to. It's the logical choice.
At least two more times.
I think they. So part of it is that they told Betty, who then told Josh, who then went and talked to Kevin and Helena, which I think is theoretically part of what flipped them back over. But they do plan to tell Jace as well now what they're going to decide, and so there's certainly a chance that Jace could flip them back. But at that point, like, who knows if that's even the right call, because Jace is going to be pissed that they changed their minds again. And what kind of, like, you know, it's such a mess.
They're like
it's such a
toying
mess
with her, essentially. She's going to think that they're toying with her. And the fact that they're flip-flopping back and forth makes it seem like they don't know what they're doing.
Yep.
And so if I'm Jace and I go into the jury house with that, I'm going to be like, yeah, these guys have no clue what's going on in this house. Like, they're just going back and forth. They don't have a strategy. Oh, God, it's bad.
Well, that's the thing, right? Is that we talked earlier about Helena saying regular schmegular and, like, playing yourself as mid, you know, the whole self-deprecation. There gets to be a part of the game where you just have to try and exude that confidence. And neither of them are exuding any type of confidence right now. And whoever you're sending to the jury, you're giving them that. You're giving them indecision. We don't even know what's best for us. We're at the final five. We have one choice to make, and it's so difficult. Compound that with the way their games may have been seen prior to this. Because, like, a lot of the conversation we've had about, you know, Kevin's game. Ooh, Kevin's playing a good game. They're going to understand it. We're going to get there. I still think he's probably fine. This isn't helping it, though. This isn't helping it at all. And if anything, Josh, who we were looking at a week ago, we're like, yo, Josh messed up. Josh had one job and screwed it up. He's not going to be looked at well. He could be losing stuff. If jacey-lynne leaves this jury house and says, yeah, Josh inceptioned them. I was safe yesterday. Josh inception. I don't know how Josh is still in that house. Yeah. Josh will get all that credit. I don't know. And, like, again, anyone that sat next to Josh is still there. They've gone out unanimously. The story writes itself by the end.
I was envisioning the scenario where Josh shows up at the jury because like even like with this decision, like you could say, okay, well, Jace survived and Jace would get credit, but you have to think about the order of operations, right? Josh shows up at the jury. So the first thing they find out is that Josh is gone. And they're like, what? Did Jace win the HOH? Like, oh my God. And then Josh is like, nah. And he shows them it was Betty. What? Betty's the HOH. Wow. And you went out on Betty's HOH? Oh my God, what happened? How did you get voted out? Jace must have won the veto or something, right? Or maybe Jace and Betty teamed up. Nope, neither of those things. It was me and Jace on the block. What? Kevin and Helena are ridiculously good at this. How the hell did they pull that off? Helena wins the veto? Wow, mind blown. And then they turned on their alliance to take out the biggest threat? They're incredible. I can't believe them. Jace gets no credit for this. Josh is pissed at Kevin, sure, but they're like, Josh, how can you be pissed at Kevin when you turned on all of us? Like he played you just like you played us. Like, good job. And I think it all plays very well for both Kevin and Helena. Instead, again, Jace is going to show up and they're like, Jace, you lost the competitions. And she'll be like, yeah, but man, I was up against Josh and, they decided to evict me. Like I had talked to them. I had convinced them to keep me. And then Josh talked to them and he managed to get them back. And they're going to be like, oh, they're in an alliance with Josh. They've been in one for a long time. They figured that out in the jury house. They stayed loyal to their alliance, even though that's a really dumb decision. They should have got rid of Josh. What are they thinking? And she's like, I don't know how Josh convinced them. Oh my God. And it's all going to be Josh. And I also think that Josh is better at competitions, but that's in itself.
Well, I want this to be an opportunity for Helena to there's a hole here. Like, you know that you and Kevin are waffling. You could go to jacey-lynne and say, I am the one making this decision to save you. We cannot go to the end with Kevin. So I'm going to convince Kevin to evict Josh. Josh will go out of the house talking about what huge threats Kevin and Helena are, or at the very least Kevin, who is attached to Helena. But now you have Betty and jacey-lynne, who also are fine with getting Kevin out. You could definitely flip this to where you look like the person who everybody's underestimating you. So now is the time, because you cannot go to the end with Kevin. You cannot go to the end with him. And the only thing that matters this time is the veto. So you don't even really have to get much blood on your hands to get rid of him. It's not like, I feel like the hole is right there for her to do something with this lack of action on Kevin's part. He's not doing anything. Like you said, you have to make this the right move. Make it the right move for you. Forget him. You both can't win the game. So I just wish that she would just have a little bit more agency in this moment. Go to jacey-lynne and be like, listen, really, it's me and you. It's me and you, because we can't trust Josh and Josh and Betty. For whatever reason, she left you up here. She doesn't want to work with you. I will be the one to work with you. And then if you need to get jacey-lynne out, you can, but you definitely want to start pulling her away from the prospect of using the veto and you being the one eliminated, right? Like, if jacey-lynne survives this, you want her still to be like, okay, well, I'm good with keeping Helena here. She's not doing the work. And I'm like, do something. Just don't go to the end and lose. I hate it so much. I want to, anyway, they're annoying. I want them to pick something and go with it. But I don't want them to pick it as a pair. It's fine for Kevin to pick it as a pair because he knows he beats her in the end. But Helena, come on, man, do something. It's annoying.
Yeah, well, that's where we stand right now. I said this morning that I might show up the next morning and things might have changed back. So I'll say it again. That's where things stand as of right now. But for all we know, I will be live tomorrow morning and there might be a different decision. We could watch the episode tomorrow night and they have changed their minds. It's that back and forth at this point. So who knows? But either way, I will be live tomorrow morning with an update, and we will, of course, be live after tomorrow's episode to talk through all of it here as we run through the final week of the season starting tomorrow. So find me over on Twitch as well, twitch.tv/Taran Armstrong, watching these episodes live with all of you. Check out The Taran Show and find me on Twitter at Armstrong Taran Chappell. Where can people find you?
Find me on Twitter at Chappelle's_show. And check me out on all these random podcasts I'm doing. I was on the Survivor B&B on Rob Has a Podcast. Currently still doing nothing but Netflix with Rob Sister, every week. And I'm still doing The Walking Dead over on Post Show Recaps and Atlanta on Post Show Recaps. So find me in any of those locations or just follow me on Twitter.
All right. Pooya, what do you got going on?
Well, I've got the 90-Day Fiance podcast going on this week. I had Asia on. Next week, I do have the man on the top right, Chappell, with me. I'm excited to get his takes on the show. Masked Singer also going on the Reality TV Wrap Ups Network. You can find me on Twitter at Pooya. You can find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Pooya.
All right. And of course, you can find Melissa at It's Melissa with 3 A's. That's what we got for you. Thank you all so much for joining us here tonight. And we will see all of you next time.